Cavs just finished shoot-around here at Cleveland Clinic Courts in Independence. Chris Fedor, Joe Vardon, and Chris Haynes with you. Hours away from Game 2 between the Cavs and the Celtics. And Joe had a chance to talk to LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love. What did you take away from what LeBron had to say in particular, given that he's the leader of this team?
Yeah, LeBron, his basic message today is that he's largely unplugged from the outside world. It's within the context of a lead shot that Pat Riley may or may not have taken at him yesterday talking about the draft, and LeBron said he was unaware of it, and at any rate it wouldn't do him any good to focus on that now, and that's certainly the right thing to say. Pat Riley runs LeBron's former team, and that team's not in the playoffs. LeBron's got bigger fish to fry.
The other person that we heard from, Chris, Kyrie Irving, coming off a 30-point night, 11 of 21 from the field. For Kyrie, he got that first game under his belt. What are the challenges for him taking what he did Game 1 and going into Game 2 knowing that Boston's probably going to make some adjustments?
Well, I think it's important to what Bron said, that what Kyrie needs to do. Make sure he takes Game 2 as if it's Game 1. Mm-hmm. Go in there, be yourself, play confident. You know they can't stop you, but the pressure, don't let the pressure get to you, because as each game goes on, it gets harder and harder to get these games. And I understand that, it's a 7-game series, possible 7. I don't think it's going 7 games, but each game gets harder and harder and deeper and deeper. And so for these guys, they've never been in that situation. I know everybody gets tired of, hey, Kevin Love, Kyrie, never been in Game 2, never been in Game 3. Well, come on, can we get past that, move on? These guys are special players. They're going to perform well. I think Kyrie's going to be all right.
And Joe, Kevin said that he got off to a slow start, and the numbers certainly back that up. He said he was running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Kevin should be, I would say, a lot more comfortable in Game 2 tonight against Boston.
Yeah, he should hope so. For the Cavs' sake, it would be better if he certainly got off to a little bit more comfortable of a start.
When it comes to LeBron, he played the role of facilitator in Game 1, and he said Boston's defense kind of dictated that. Yeah. What kind of approach do you expect him to take tonight, Game 2?
Well, he's averaging about almost 29 points a game in Game 2s for his career. So I think that I would expect that you'll see him be a little bit more aggressive. But that's the thing. If you turn LeBron into a facilitator here, you've got to deal with Kyrie, you got to deal with Kevin. And don't forget, J.R. Smith didn't play well. Right. That's a fourth option that's pretty good from 25, 26 feet.
Game 2 between the Cavs and the Celtics, hours away. Chris, if you look at what the Cavs did in Game 1, obviously they won 113-100, get off to a 1-0 series lead. Are there certain areas that the Cavs have to improve on going into Game 2? And if so, where do you see those areas?
Well, it's just minor adjustments that need to be made. When you talk about Isaiah Thomas, you got to make sure you put 2 bodies on him. When he gets past the first line of defense, you got to make sure the rotation comes over crisp and quick, because that guy's quick. And LeBron talked about it yesterday. He's so small and compact to the ground that it's difficult to try to get your timing right to try to contest his shot. It's hard for small guards like that. But just slowing him down a little bit more, and as well, just making sure everybody else gets involved. J.R. Smith. Iman Shumpert, those guys, they were so-so. They didn't need them. But like I said, it's all about the Celtics. If they want to turn Bron into a facilitator in this game, that's fine. LeBron will do what he did last time, and maybe somebody else will go off. So it's really about what the Celtics need to do, the adjustment they need to make, and then the Cavaliers will counter that.
Chris, what about the Cavs' defense? For this season, they're number 20 in field goal percentage. I think they're 14th in defensive efficiency since even bringing Timofey Mozgov, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert. Jake Crowder said after the game for Boston that there were some holes that he saw in the Cavs' defense that he feels like the Celtics can exploit tonight. Did you see those same holes defensively?
Yeah, they're holes, but I'm going to tell you right now, they're not big holes, but they're playing James Jones, getting them into the rotate. They play, Black, he tinkers. He's tinkering a little bit. And a lot of times when you tinker, you don't have your best unit or your best defensive units in at all times. So while James Jones did have a tremendous game, he hit that buzzer beating to send it at halftime. But, players like him or Dellavedova, those guys, you can exploit those matchups one-on-one by getting past your guy and popping the jumper opposed to just trying to go all in and try to get in the paint. The Celtics were doing that, and those are little things right there that they can do to try to give themselves a chance. Would that help them get a win? I highly doubt it, but it helped.
It's funny that you bring up James Jones' buzzer-beating three. So many people talk about that. That extended it to 15. It was 91-76. I thought the biggest play that James Jones made was stopping a 14-0 Celtics run. The Cavs, their offense was bogged down. They had nothing going. They went to James Jones in the post. I don't think that was the play David Blatt drew up, but they go to James Jones in the post, and he delivered a huge shot. And the Cavs got those kinds of contributions all night in Game 1 from the bench.
Yeah, they really did. I mean, as we've talked about before, I mean, the bench has been a story in a negative way. And so for the bench to be involved with stopping sort of Boston's last gasp, that's a good thing. I mean, as you look forward to tonight, I think there's a couple things to keep in mind. One, because of the huge talent discrepancy, this would be the kind of game that the Cavs could or should win in a blowout. But if you look at what happened last night, the Bulls needed every bit of 4 quarters to outlast Milwaukee, and Golden State had a heck of a time with New Orleans. You talk to people around the league, they feel like Brad Stevens is like number 2 or number 3 in the league as far as a coach goes, and this is where he could earn his money. I mean, I've had some conversations yesterday where people feel like he is that good. So we'll see what gives tonight, if the Cavs just impose their will, or if Brad Stevens is really that good of a coach and that good of an adjuster between games.
Speaking of coaching, Coach of the Year was handed out today. It goes to Atlanta's Mike Budenholzer. Steve Kerr comes in second. It was a close race between 1 and 2. David Blatt, first-year coach in the NBA, finishes 9th, Chris.
Well, Coach Bud, he did an awesome job. Nobody expected the Hawks to come out there and just be as dominant as they were. And the way they did it in a team-unified way. Yeah. No stars on there, but somehow they managed to get, 3 All-Stars in the 4. Forgot about that 4. That's pretty good. So you definitely have to award him. Coach Blatt being 9th, maybe a little bit low. I didn't have a Coach of the Year vote. That's one of the votes I did not have in there. So I'm not going to tell you who I would have went for. But the top 3, yeah, you can make a case he shouldn't be the top 3. But 9th, that's probably a little bit too low considering what he had to deal with early on in the season to what the Cavs are now. I think he Blatt, you better than that. I'll just say that.
Apparently, the NBA did not get my updated email address because I was not given any votes on any of the awards. But on my non-official awards ballot, Joe, David Blatt did not make the top 3. As you mentioned, it was Budenholzer number 1 on my non-official ballot, Steve Kerr number 2, and Brad Stevens of the Celtics got my 3rd place vote.
Well, yeah, I mean, they traded away their 2 best players, and they're the 7th seed. And he comes in. Brad comes in with a great reputation from college, where everybody in the United States followed him. David comes from overseas, where American basketball fans that's not something they pay attention to. So you can see that, and David had some problems. He was uncomfortable, I think, in addressing the media at the start of the year. That lasted for a couple months, and that probably hurt him too.
No Jason Kidd in the top 3?
He was not in my top 3. You can't have a top 5 in your top 3. You have to pick and choose. You tell me why Jason Kidd over Brad Stevens right now.
Yeah, okay. Let's think about the Milwaukee Bucks where they were last year. Okay. Did we think that they were going to be a playoff team at all?
Boston was 16-30 at one point. As Joe said, they traded away Jeff Green and Rajon Rondo, and they finished winning 24 of their last 36, whereas the Bucks finished in free fall mode.
In free fall mode. They lost arguably their best player early in the year, Jabari Parker. You heard that kid?
That's right.
Probably would have won Rookie of the Year. Good chance. And then you add in the fact that the whole dynamic of that whole coaching situation, how that all came about. Jason Kidd just coming over there and just lights out.
Terrific job. There were a lot of coaches around the NBA that did a very good job, but for Brad Stevens, I looked at the Boston Celtics as a team that was going to be lottery bound, one of the worst teams in the NBA, and he took that team to the number 7 seed. So he got my 3rd place vote on my non-official ballot.
That's why I'm glad you didn't really get a vote.
Well, thank you very much. Game 2 tonight, Cavs and Celtics. It tips off at 7 o'clock at the Q. For Joe Vardon, Chris Haynes, I'm Chris Fedor. Continue to check out cleveland.com/Cavs.